Spring is in the air at Global Voice Broadcasting. Fresh new shows are hitting the airwaves every day. Shows about all the things that matter to you in your life. Music, fashion, celebs, and more. It's all here, and it's getting better every day. Only at Global Voice Broadcasting.
I highly recommend Ms. Hicks. Her books, her CDs are encouraging.
I bought her book, A Hill to Climb. She's a very inspirational speaker.
And I look forward to one day being able to work with her.
Your power lies within you. Let it loose.
Aspiration, inspiration, motivation, edification, determination. These are the keys of life success brought to you by none other than award-winning author, motivational lecturer, business consultant, and much more as she gets you aimed to your purpose. And now, ladies and gentlemen, young and elder, from Hollywood to the entire world, here is your host of Aim to Purpose, the radio show, Louise Hicks, along with her co-host, yours truly, Kennon Wesley Mason.
Hello, world. How's everybody today? And welcome to Aim to Purpose, the radio show. Once again, I'm Louise Hicks, your host.
And I am your co-host, Kennon Mason. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone watching as we welcome you to another edition of Aim to Purpose, the radio show. And we have part 2 of what we call swimming. What is it?
Swimming for a Cause.
Swimming for a Cause. Yes.
In support of the youth fighting cancer at Camp Trillium.
Yes.
And we have, along with us today, our sports therapist, Robert Snell.
Yes. And we will be having, once again, here for part 2, Annaleise Carr calling in from Ontario, Canada. As we are an international broadcast. And once again, we want to thank all of you for listening and tuning in. If you want to chime in, as always, the number to call in is 1-323-522-5482 from anywhere around the world. 1-323-522-5482.
Yes. And now we're going to get ready and go to our sports therapy segment.
We're going to go to sports therapy. Well, we have to do this right. Without further ado, it's Robert Snell with sports therapy. Take it away, Robert.
Thanks, Kennon. And starting off in the world of sports, Major League Baseball had their opening week last week, and it was a both eventful and historic opening week. A couple of the records were set. Adrian Gonzalez, the first baseman for the LA Dodgers, he broke history by becoming the first player in the history of baseball to ever hit 5 home runs in his first 3 games to open the season. And I don't know if you saw any of those games versus the Padres, but he was on fire. He hit over 600 in the series and literally was the catalyst that carried the Dodgers offense to a 2-1 series victory over the Padres.
Wow.
Also in baseball, Billy Hamilton, the outfielder for the Cincinnati Reds, became only the second player since 1900 to steal 6 bases in the first 3 games of the year, so that was exciting. He's one of the fastest people I've ever seen in my lifetime, and I think he'll be one of the first people, actually, since I've been born, to ever steal 100 bases. So there's been others to do it in the past, but no one has come close for the past few decades. So.
Yeah, those kind of numbers haven't been seen since probably the old Negro leagues where records were broken left and right.
I believe Rickey Henderson actually was able to get to 100 stolen bases once, but we'll see. And then the Kansas City Royals, who were the fallout after losing last year's World Series to the Giants. Many so-called experts predicted them to have a down year and actually finish towards the middle of the pack in the division, miss the playoffs. But they're, after 1 week, the MLB's only undefeated team remaining. They're 7-0. They have a plus 30 run differential, and after sweeping my Angels, I have to say they look legit. I wouldn't be surprised to see them back in the World Series again this year.
There you go.
Moving on to hockey, we don't talk about that much, but the playoffs do start this week, so we'll give the NHL a quick shout out.
Okay.
Locally, the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, the Anaheim Ducks. They will be trying to quack their way to an opening round victory versus the Winnipeg Jets, and that series begins Thursday at 7:30 Pacific time. So be sure, if you're a hockey fan, to check that one out. Should be a good one.
All right.
And our main story in basketball, the NBA, playoffs are right around the corner. Each team has only 1 to 2 regular season games remaining. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who haven't been paying attention to this point, the Oklahoma City Thunder are in an all-out battle with the New Orleans Pelicans to get the last seed, the 8th seed in the Western Conference.
Wow.
The Pelicans have 1 game remaining versus the number 2 currently slated Spurs, and the Thunder have 2 games left versus both the Trailblazers and the Timberwolves. Now, here's the controversial part. In the NBA, if a player receives 16 technical fouls in one season, they receive an automatic 1-game suspension. Russell Westbrook.
Yes.
You heard the story?
Russell Westbrook, yeah.
Russell Westbrook. So, Oklahoma City star point guard and MVP candidate Russell Westbrook, on his way to a 54-point, 8 assist and 9 rebound game against the Indiana Pacers, also picked up his 16th technical foul of the season, which would typically, mandate the 1-game automatic suspension.
Right.
However, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver stepped in this morning and rescinded that technical foul. They reviewed it and determined it was not worthy of getting a technical. So therefore, Russell Westbrook is still somehow magically at 15 technical fouls.
Right.
He will be allowed to play tonight against the Portland Trailblazers. And the Oklahoma City Thunder are still live.
Right.
So if you're a New Orleans fan, I apologize. You must be...
I'm from Louisiana, so I have to go with the home team.
Oh, boy.
You got to stand up for Anthony Davis in the unibrow.
Yeah.
And really hope Pelicans Nation can hold on and survive, because Russell Westbrook's going to bring all he has.
Oh, of course.
I'm sure he will. I mean, I love the Thunder, too.
Yeah. I mean, I love Russell Westbrook. I think I'd love to see him win MVP, even though I know he won't. But at the same time, he did, get that 16 technical foul, and it's hard to argue that in a star-driven league, the NBA isn't doing their classic star, treatment here.
Right.
Where they'll, look the other way for certain players, or, not call things, or, they just, in the interest of parity, they've always been more than willing to help out their franchise stars.
Of course. And Russell Westbrook, he is a franchise player, and he is a money draw for Oklahoma. He and actually the entire team has really come into their own, and they've become household names now.
Well, currently though, he's the only household name because Kevin Durant's out for the year. Serge Ibaka probably won't return, so it's only on Westbrook. So if
that's
he was
true, right now that's true. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So even though Portland currently, who they play tonight, is injured and looking to just get into the playoffs healthy and probably won't give a full effort tonight, without Westbrook, Thunder wouldn't win, This is single-handedly the decision that keeps their playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, New Orleans, I mean, all the new expansion teams or the teams that have been either bought out or sold to another city or what have you, they're stepping up, as Oklahoma did a few years back. They were a fairly unknown team.
Yeah.
And they've put together a roster that they've been championship contenders. They've been in the finals. So now you have there, and you wouldn't think that they would be battling for an 8th seed,
especially not in the West.
Right. That for Oklahoma, that's kind of unheard of.
Right.
But what can you do? You have injuries happen. You have New Orleans, who's an up and coming team. They want to make their statement, and it will make them more of a viable component or opponent come next season.
Yeah, and New Orleans honestly is kind of an inspiration to all those teams right now who are in the cellar of the NBA and who are tanking right now, the Philadelphias, the Lakers, the Magics of the world. Because like you mentioned, the Pelicans were formerly the Charlotte Hornets, came to New Orleans as an expansion team.
I remember that.
Didn't really have anything going for them, even up until a couple years ago, then got the number 1 overall pick, drafted Anthony Davis.
That's right.
And the NBA is one of those leagues where one player really can make all the difference in the world.
Of course.
So, you get that number 1 pick, you land possibly this year a Jahlil Okafor, maybe a Karl Anthony Towns, and who knows, maybe you can be a playoff team in a year or two with the right, roster moves and signings.
Well, if they keep playing the way that they're playing now, they're already battling for that playoff spot.
Yeah, when no one expected them to even touch it.
Exactly. So that remains to be seen. I can't wait for the NBA playoffs. It's always a great time to watch. It's going to be a different dynamic now because you're not going to see the Lakers
at
all. And being from Los Angeles, all we have right now are the Clippers, which they're going to be in the playoffs. How far they'll go, that remains to be seen. They still cannot seem to get over that hump.
Right.
So
I was going to say, the Clippers, though, despite, they're having a winning record over the past few years, most people still view them as those, lovable losers. You know, I know I hate to take the shot, but honestly, I don't think there's a single person who actually thinks they're going to win the championship this year.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Outside of the Clippers locker room.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Lovable what?
Lovable losers.
The Cubs, the Clippers.
That's right.
Each sport has their own.
God.
That's right. They can't get over that hump, but we'll see. I'm always interested. Is always at this time of the season where it really gets interesting.
Well, they've come a long ways. I tell you that.
Definitely. Yes. New Orleans has a lot to be excited about. So does Oklahoma City if they can get in.
Absolutely. Anything else this week, Robert?
That'll cover it. Just watch hockey, watch basketball, watch baseball. Enjoy sports.
There you go.
Thank you.
And that's Robert Snell with Sports Therapy.
Therapy. You always bring me up to date because I'm a sports fan, but it seems like lately I just haven't had an opportunity to get involved. I stay just working on other things so much. But
yeah, we gotta keep the we gotta keep the show going to make sure we got the guests, but at the same time, it's always good to listen to your analysis with sports.
Yes, always.
Shamika Brown, Mika the Diva, will not be here this week to give us the entertainment and community news. She won't be back next week either. Okay, well.
But she will be back probably last Monday.
And I won't be here next week, but you can follow me on Twitter at Arsenal Radio, and of course follow the show at Aim to Purpose in order to keep up to date with all the latest sports stories, and I'll be live tweeting a lot of games throughout the next couple of weeks.
There you go.
Absolutely. We'll miss you.
I'll miss you guys too.
Yeah, we'll miss you.
And with that said, we are going to take our first break, and then we're going to come back and welcome back Annaleise Carr for part 2 of this wonderful conversation that we had last week. Just a rundown. She's won numerous awards, many accolades. She's becoming not only a local hero in Canada, but she's also becoming a global figure. And I'd like to say that we have something to do with that by her, letting us into her world.
Yes, and she's world renowned. And we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk to Annaleise and continue the conversation. Swimming for a Cause, helping youth to fight cancer, because as we know from last week, we learned a lot about her cause at Camp Trillium, vacation camp for cancer youth and their families. So we're going to take this break, and we'll be right back with Miss Annaleise Carr.
Yes. This edition of Aim to Purpose, the radio show, is brought to you by L. Hicks Consulting Services. When you want the best in business coaching, life coaching, or perhaps your organization, business, or company is in need of a dynamic speaker for an upcoming workshop or seminar, contact Louise Hicks for L. Hicks Consulting Services at 1-562-310-1495. From anywhere around the world, that's 1-562-310-1495. For more information about Louise Hicks and her consulting services, visit her website at www.louisehicks.biz. Again, that's www.louisehicks.biz. Or call 1-562-310-1495. L. Hicks Consulting Services, where professionalism is top priority.
Hello, world. We're back. And we just finished up sports therapy with our therapy commentator, Robert Snell. And now we're going to be joined by our guest who is Skyping in from Canada, Annaleise Carr. Are you there, Annaleise?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
We're wonderful, and thank you for joining us again on part 2 of Swimming for a Cause, helping youth to fight cancer. And this week, last week, we more or less focused on how you got to swim across Lake Ontario and what you did and how you did it. So we're going to focus because we know you are also an author as well as a speaker. And I read over this dynamic, amazing, incredible speech that you did. I don't know whether it was your first speech or what, but you talked about power. Do you recall that speech you did where you talked about power and you shared with your audience some of the things that you had done and how you went about gearing up for the swim? But you talked about power, and I thought that was interesting how you described power. And how a lot of times, particularly when you're swimming, I guess people think of the strength and the muscles. And you were saying that it's more than being the biggest and the fastest. So tell us a little bit about what power means to you, Annaleise.
Well, yeah, I use that speech a lot with different school groups. And I guess the reason I use it when I do my speeches is because in my speech I talk about how power isn't about your height or speed. And I mean, I'm not very tall. I'm only 4'10", and I'm not very fast. So it's just kind of to tell the kids that you don't have to be really tall, the tallest person or the fastest person to have power.
Yeah, you're the little fish in the big pond, and you swim the farthest as well.
Yeah.
and that's so amazing how you swam with these kids that were older, 18, and you're much so younger. You're just 5 and you're swimming with 18-year-olds. And you talked about how it's about being willing to work hard. And I know you really did work hard to get yourself ready for this, and how supportive your family was, your whole family. And we know when anyone is fighting cancer, it really does impact the whole family. And that's how you talked a little bit about that too in the speech, and how much it affects the whole family, because we know the person that's really going through it, they really go through a lot. The patient does, with the chemotherapy and all of the hair loss. And as I spoke with you last week, I was sharing with you about me going through this with my son, who was the same age you were when he was diagnosed with cancer, when you were swimming across Lake Ontario. And he was only 14 and you were only 14. And this was in 2012. Is that correct? Annaleise, can you hear me?
Not very well.
Okay. I was saying that...
yeah, go ahead and ask her again.
I was saying that when you swim across... Lake Ontario, you were only 14, the same age as my son was when he was diagnosed with the cancer. And being that age, a lot of these kids at Camp Trillium, we know that you were telling us some of them are babies, and it's so hard realizing what they go through when they're fighting the cancer, the chemotherapy, the hair loss, the vomiting, and it's just they just go through a slew of uncomfortableness, and sometimes it's just overwhelming with the families. And the fact that you went, when you started to do the swim, you only thought you were going to raise about $30,000. In fact, that was your goal, and you said you didn't think you'd do it, but you far surpassed that. And I know last week when we were talking about it, you said you had raised a little over $250,000, but come to find out, you've raised about $500,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And when did you did this swim in 2012, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the thing about it, we talk about success. And we know success has different meanings to different people. And at your age, when you were doing this, did you really think about the success of it and how this would make you feel? And what actually does, I know now you're 17 because it's been a few years, and what does success really mean to you?
Well, when I did this swim, I never thought that it would be as big as it got. Like, I never thought I'd be getting awards or being an author or anything like that. So it's been super overwhelming. Like, I could never imagine any of this ever happening to me.
Because you just felt, well, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to do this and it's going to be over, huh? You just didn't have a clue as to how big this would get, and you would be world renowned and be getting all the accolades that you're getting from all over the world. And that has to be pretty amazing to you. And knowing that you were out here and having to get prepared for this, and you believing in yourself, because you have to have a certain amount of faith to do what you did. I mean, at 14, and like you said, you're only 4'10", and to go out and face this huge lake, it has to be about believing in yourself and your support system, because you really did have a big support system. Is that correct?
Yeah, support crew was amazing. My whole family was definitely a great support throughout the whole summer, taking me to training, coming and going to like different fundraisers with me. And then I had a huge crew. It was about 50 people. There was 25 people on the water in the boats with me. And then there was about 25 people on land getting donations and just updating us on everything that was happening on the other side.
Amazing, because that's what keeps you going, I'm sure, the support system and knowing all of this. 100%. Now, before we get into the book, I know after you did the swim and you really did make it, you had a pool named after you, right?
Yeah, our local pool.
And how did that come about?
I'm really not too sure. I think it was like the county decided to do it, but that's pretty crazy too. I have to go swimming in the aquatic center that's named after me almost every day, so that's kind of awkward.
Wow. And that's forever too.
Yeah, and I work there too.
Oh,
is that one of your 3 jobs?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Because I know you shared with us last time that you had 3 jobs and you just had to stay busy. And I don't know how you, like I asked you last time, how do you sleep? Because having 3 jobs, and just think you go to a pool and work that's named after you because of how hard you fought those waters to become the youngest person to swim across Lake Ontario. Now, what we want to do is get into your book, because you wrote this amazing book and I read it, and the title of the book is Annaleise Carr, How I Conquered Lake Ontario to Help Kids Battling Cancer. Now, how did you come about becoming an author?
Well, right after my swim, Deborah Ellis contacted me about writing a book. And at first I was really busy, so I didn't contact her back right away. But it was always kind of in like the back of my mind that we should do a book. And as time kept going past, I realized that putting what happened in the lake on paper was super important so that I could remember it myself. All the little things that I might not remember one day.
Right.
So we contacted her, and we got right to work on the book, and I'd be at Deborah's house almost every Saturday for 4 or 5 hours, just telling her my story from the starting to the beginning. And yeah, it was an amazing experience to work with Deborah Ellis. She's an amazing author, so it was so much fun doing this.
And I can imagine you getting a call from this world-renowned author, right? And she's living in your community, and you wasn't aware of it until you got this call, right?
Yeah, I know we read some of her books at school sometimes, which was pretty cool to meet an author that we read her books at school. So that was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's the ultimate compliment. For you know, I mean, you have this person who you've been studying this particular author, and now you've pretty much the universe kind of brought you together to join forces, and now you have this wonderful book here. So it's kind of amazing how these type of successes bring you into something for a new success, swimming, and now you're a successful author now. So I think it's wonderful. And
I love the book. The book was so well written from your words, and I just have to give Miss Ellis her accolades too for what she did with you in you becoming the author of this book. And I'd love to have her on the show as well one of these days, because I know she is a world renowned. I believe she's an award-winning author as well. I looked up some of her work, and she is really a dynamic author. And that's amazing. And I know you do book signings and all. And one thing I loved in reading about you, about how you sign your book. And you said you always use this quote: pick something you love and never give up.
Yeah.
That's really a great quote, because that's an inspiring quote. Because when someone reads that, just think, here you are 17. Now, when the book was published, when you were what, 15 or 16?
It was published when actually after the March break that I turned 16.
Okay. Here you are, this 16-year-old that swam across Lake Ontario, and now you are an author, and you've had so many other wonderful things. And you really, did that help you to really, when you saw the children at Camp Trillium, and then you had the call from Miss Ellis, and you started your book signings, was that quote, pick something you love and never give up, did that have anything to do with your swim and how you never gave up? Because we know you were in the water almost 27 hours doing that swim.
Yeah, for sure. That quote was definitely something that, like, I guess I was going by too, because I love to swim. So that was kind of a good choice for me. And then just never giving up. And that's what I tell people all the time. It doesn't have to be something big. If you like drawing, you can make some posters, and that'll start a ripple eventually as well. So.
Oh, yeah, like that little drop in the water you talk about when you do your speaking engagements, right? That has that ripple effect.
Exactly, yes.
That is awesome, Annaleise. And you know, in your book, on page 7 first, let's look at that, because your foreword was written by the Lieutenant Governor, right, of Ontario?
Yeah, that's correct.
And I just love, just quickly, I just want to read this quote in your foreword that Honorable, is that who it is, David C. Only? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, David C. Only.
Okay, and he said, one day a spirited girl named Annaleise Carr swam across Lake Ontario and straight into our hearts. That is really amazing, because not only did you swim into the hearts of of Canada, your own country, you swam into the hearts of people across the world, globally. And you're going to Australia next month, so you've done such a wonderful thing. And the thing is, you did this in 2012, and the last time someone crossed that lake was Marilyn Bell in 1954, and no one had done it until you did it. And I think she was about 15 or 16, I guess. And
she was 16.
She was 16?
Yeah.
Okay, and here you are 14 at 410, and look what you did. I mean, it's just
breaking
amazing.
Records all over the place.
Yes, you are. And then to get the awards that you got, and the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. You got the Ontario Junior Citizen of the Year Award twice, and that's amazing what you have done. And when you think about that, now you came up with a name when you got ready to do your swim. How did you come about that name? It was the ARC. What is that an acronym for?
Well, my initials of my name are ARC because my name's Annaleise Rebecca Carr. So that's kind of how that came about.
Uh-huh. And you gave that a name for the crossing, though, so...
Yeah, Annalise's Radical Crossing. It was mostly like my initials, and then that worked out too, so... Oh, yeah.
And it did become a radical crossing. We're going to talk a little bit more about how you came to all of some of the things, the challenges that you faced when you were crossing it. But on page 40 in the book, you talk about how the RE7, what is that? You were given the RE7, I think a lifetime of it, and the inventor flew in from Calgary, Canada. Is that correct?
Yeah, RE7 is a sports drink. It's kind of like Gatorade, but it has less sugar, so it's healthier for you. And they
it's what we need out here,
which was amazing. And they still actually like sponsor me and support me with the swim the race that I'm doing this summer. They're our biggest sponsor. And the guy who owns it actually flew in from Calgary to come meet me, and we're really good friends with the guy who, the representative, I guess, that's in Ontario right now, which is really cool. So they're amazing.
Wow.
That is amazing. You can just have all the RE7s that you want, right?
Yeah.
That is pretty neat, Annaleise. Now, how did this, when you went back to school and your classmates, how did that change your life at school?
Well, it was the summer before high school. So, it actually, everyone still treats me normal, and I don't know, they all treat me normal still, which is good.
That's good, because they see your heart too, and they see that you are such a humble person. And when you started out doing this, you didn't really do it to get any fame, become this person that everybody would look up to. You did it for such a great cause, and you still stayed humble after raising close to $500,000. Well, you may be over that by now.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wouldn't doubt it if you're not over $500,000, and if not, you probably will be with your summer event that you're having.
Yeah.
And so you had to do a qualifying also because in reading the book, and I'm not going to give the book away because I want people to go out and get your book and read it because it's a great read. And but you talked about you had to train to qualify. You didn't just go and jump into this race and say, oh, well, I've trained with my coach and trainer, so I'm ready to go swim. That wasn't the case, right? Didn't you have to do some qualifying to really get out in the water?
Yeah, I had to do a 6-hour swim or a 16-kilometer swim to qualify for Lake Ontario and for my other swim as well. And I have to finish 16 kilometers in 6 hours. And that's just kind of to have precautions that you're not in the water too long, and that the swim master can see that you can swim out in the open water and stuff like that.
16 kilometers. What does that equate to in miles, if you know?
I think that would be 11 or 12 miles, maybe.
Wow.
Roughly.
Wow.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Wow.
That goes to show your strength and the power
Strength
as a
and power,
swimmer.
yeah.
And the fact that you had the stamina to do that. I mean, that's a lot. And at your age, and like you talk about, it's not about your size. It's about what you put your mind to and what you have the mindset to do. And
exactly.
You had that mindset because you knew what your cause was, and your thought was really on those children and their families and what you were going to do to ensure that they got to come to this camp, because and all the money that you've raised, and I know you this is something dear to your heart, so you're going to continue to do this. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. I want to volunteer there when I'm 18, and I want to keep raising money for them.
Yeah, and you'll definitely keep the momentum going. I mean, it's going in the best direction that it's supposed to right now. And with all the turning of events that are happening for you, I mean, you're going to Australia of all places. You're going there next month, right?
I actually leave in July.
In July. Okay.
Yeah, she leaves in July.
In July. Yeah, that has to be just in itself, just to be able to travel, and this will be your first time in Australia, correct?
Yes.
I know you're
Very
looking.
excited.
I bet you are.
And a whole year too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is great. Now, when you got ready, you had gotten yourself prepared, you had qualified, and now you are ready. You have your support system already, and you get to where you're getting ready to start. And I was reading in the book where you felt this, I don't know whether you want to call it fear or what do you call it, how you felt, because you said you thought about Marilyn Bell and you wondered how she must have felt and being scared. Were you scared when you got ready, knowing that you had to tackle this big open lake and you didn't know what you would encounter when you were doing this swim?
During the night was probably the scariest part of the whole swim because you're in the water all by yourself. And we also had really bad weather during the night. We had 6-foot waves pushing me back the whole entire night, so I was actually not moving anywhere.
Wow.
Like, they said I went 1/10 of a kilometer in 6 hours. So I was like moving backwards.
So you were swimming,
basically.
right?
And so that was definitely the scariest part because I would go up in a wave and my boat would be down in the like gutter of the wave, and then it would be the opposite every time. So I would only see them as we're passing in the middle.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That's something. But you knew they were there, so that was somewhat of a safety net.
Yeah.
Knowing they were there. Now you had to swim in just an ordinary swimsuit, right? You couldn't have a wetsuit on or anything.
Yeah, that was one of the 70 pages of rules.
Wow.
And with you having that, you had to protect your body as well because you're really exposed to the elements out here in this big open water, all this water you exposed. So you had to protect your body. What did you do to protect yourself?
We had to put lanolin on, which is like an extra layer of fat, and then zinc oxide, which we used instead of sunscreen.
Yeah, because sunscreen can be kind of clogging to the pores, and you want your whole body to be able to breathe as easy as possible, especially if you're swimming backwards. You're going to have as much stamina as you can to start moving forward again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. And then you have to think about your body temperature because you had a doctor, is that correct, as part of your support group, and you have to be concerned about hypothermia and whether your body temperature could sustain itself in the water. So what did your doctor do to monitor and help you to sustain yourself, and how did they monitor you while you were in this water? Because that's a long time, almost 27 hours.
Well, before the swim, I took like a really big pill that had like a thermometer in it, and they would actually had this little like remote control that they would put up to my stomach, and it would actually tell them my core temperature, and it never went below normal, which was really good. But when I did start getting a little bit cold, I would have some hot fluid, so like hot chocolate, and my coach would also tell me to like speed up a little bit because when you're going slow, your body heat isn't really like there. So if you start going faster, then your body heat increases. So by like speeding up a little bit and having some hot chocolate, I'd be fine again.
There you go.
Yeah. And you had to, you couldn't really get out of the water to get fed. They had to feed you by handing you some type of canister type thing. Is that what it was?
They used a lacrosse stick, and they put the food in like the netting part of the lacrosse stick, and I would have to tread water, grab the food out of the lacrosse stick, and eat it while treading water.
Wow. So no sit down breaks for you, huh?
No.
No, and you just had the stamina to just keep going, knowing that at some point in time, did you really get tired and just want to quit and say, I don't know whether I can keep going?
There's definitely times where I thought about giving up, like during the night and like in the morning after we had the really bad weather and I was so tired. That was my first all-nighter actually, so that was pretty exciting. But when I woke up, like when I got like to the morning,
you wanted to feel wanted to feel like you were waking up, huh?
And I actually had to like shake my head to like keep myself awake at some points. So it was really tough. But I never asked to get out, and my coach actually asked me at one point, and then when she asked me, it kind of like got me determined not to stop. So then I just put my head back in the water and like kept swimming and made it look like I wasn't tired anymore so that she wouldn't ask me again. And she also gave me some hemp oil, which is like gives you a whole bunch of energy. And that was the only time my coach and I had ever like argued the whole entire summer, because this was kind of a surprise, this hemp oil. She had never warned me about it, and it was disgusting, and I really didn't want to drink it. But she had a sip, so then I thought, well, I better have a sip too. Yeah. And it actually ended up helping a lot, so it was worth it. Yeah,
the hemp oil, and I take hemp protein for my workout, so I know. I know all about the hemp protein. It's probably one of the best natural products that you can use for energy.
Yeah.
So that was your trump card, definitely.
Yeah, it helped a lot.
Yeah.
And you said it was disgusting, huh? So maybe the disgusting part of it is what made your body energy just uproar and say, oh, this stuff is so disgusting. I just got to keep moving and get that thought out of my mind and just think about what the cause is.
Yeah, she gave me some chocolate after I drank it, though, so that was good.
Yeah, I'm sure that helped. Now, Annaleise, we have a video clip that we want to play, and it's a short clip, but we want the audience to see the magnitude of this lake, Ontario, knowing that it's, I don't know, it's one of the largest lakes in the world. And we want to show this clip, and then I have a few other questions to ask you. One is about how your grandmother helped to sustain you as well. So let's look at the clip.
As we're looking at you in the great I guess this is part of the North Atlantic Ocean, or near the this is Lake Ontario. Okay.
And look how huge. We see your support system there, but it's so huge. And there you are, you're swimming. And this is early in the morning after you have gone through all night long. And I look at you and it looks like you just have the energy just to keep going, because you're there, you're just swimming right along. And it's just amazing how you kept your posture and your composure, even though you got tired. There were times when you felt like you might want to quit, but you knew you were there for a cause and you didn't. But just looking at that lake and you being out there, this is early morning, so I can only imagine what it must have looked like at night, because at nighttime you could barely see the lights, right? Because of your support system, the boats around you.
Yeah, and during the night, like, we actually couldn't put on the big boat lamps because they attract like eels and fish. And I didn't really want any of those to come up while I was swimming during the night.
That's right.
So all the light that we had was like a few headlamps, and that's all we had.
Yeah. You definitely don't want the the something like an eel that could possibly be an electric eel. You don't want any type of distractions or any disturbances in the water, because you are in their territory.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. And you talk about that in the book on page 74. I was going to talk to you about those eels, because for those of us that you were saying in the book, they are long, thin, snake-like fish with sharp teeth. And I mean, that's horrifying to me, just the thought of it, think of something that you can encounter out there, but you never encountered any, huh?
No, luckily I didn't encounter any, but there's actually a dead one on my trial swim that I had to do.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so you got to see one, huh?
No, they moved it away from me.
Oh, well, that's
before
good.
I could see it. And then they didn't even tell me about it until after I was finished my actual lake swim, so that I wasn't freaked out.
That was a good thing.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Because when I was reading the book, and I'm seeing in there that you could have encountered eels, because I think when Marilyn Bell swam the lake, I believe she did encounter some eels.
Yeah, she did.
And you were... Oh, that was a blessing. You didn't have to encounter any of those scary things, because in reading what they are, and I know what they are too, because from my home state of Louisiana, I've seen them before, and I know what they look like. And it is scary because they do look like snakes, and they got sharp teeth, and that's enough to scare me not to even go in the water.
Yeah.
So you are really brave. Now, seeing that video clip, we know you said there were times when you were so tired, but they gave you the hemp oil, and that energized you some more. But your grandmother played a very pivotal role and significant role in your swim. What did she do that was so significant? She told you to do something. Tell us about that. With your Bible verse. With your Bible verse.
Yeah, she told me to look at my hands because I had Bible verses on my hands.
That is so awesome. Yeah, she told you to do that, and you write about that too on page 56 in the book, because she told you to look at your hands, because I want to read this quickly. It says, it means that God's love and protection is stronger than the wind and bigger than the depth of the lake.
Yeah.
So that is really great. And I know grandmothers are really great. I know I had 2 wonderful grandmothers, and they have so much wisdom. So that's something great that helped to keep you going too, because you would look at your hand and you knew that power was so much greater than the winds and things of the lake, because you said there were high winds and so forth, right?
Yeah, there was.
And then the darkness of it too. Now, your support group, who were your support groups? You had your coach and your aunt, doctor, and you said there were several others?
Yeah, we had to have certain people on the boat. We had to have the doctor, a swim master, my swim coach, 3 lifeguards. We had to have a crew for each boat, so there had to be 2 or 3 drivers that could drive each boat and take shifts. There was a kayaker, people who had to drive the 2 Zodiacs. So there was a lot of different people who had to be on the boat.
That's great. That's great. And it's great to have that. And I know that was one of the other things, I'm sure, that kept you going, because you knew there were sometimes, I think you said you felt kind of alone, especially in the darkness, because I can only imagine seeing at 6-something a.m. in the morning what the lake surroundings look like. I can only imagine what it had to look like for you at night. You had to swim all night, and you're out here in this big lake. It's dark. You just had the little light from the boat, and I think you said some lantern or something. So that had to be, was that a little scary?
Yeah, it was a little scary for sure. But in the morning, we actually, my whole crew and I, we stopped for a second and watched the sunrise because it was so beautiful. And my coach said, we might never be out on this lake again like this in the middle of the lake during a sunrise. So we just stopped for a few minutes and watched the sun.
Yeah, it's. I'm pretty sure it was a kind of an experience that kind of sticks with you for a lifetime, because very few people make attempts to do what you've done. Obviously, with what's the lady you mentioned? Her name is Marilyn Bell. Marilyn Bell. So very few people have attempted what you've done. You've taken it upon yourself, and you've had the courage and the mindset, of course, because like you said, you were tired, admittedly, and which all of us get to an exhaustion point. But when you get to running on fumes, that's when the mind kicks in, and that will take you the rest of the way.
Yeah, fumes and disgusting hemp oil, huh? That's amazing. And even though you got tired, your feet got numb, right? Your hands and so forth.
Yeah.
I mean, but you didn't give up. And I can see why you signed your book that way, because no matter what challenges you faced in that water, the rough winds, it took you almost 27 hours, but you never gave up, because you knew what your cause was and you knew what your mission was. And even though sometimes you got frustrated, you had your support system there too. And did someone get in the water with you at one time?
Pardon?
Did someone get in the water with you at one time?
Yeah, I had like pacers, and they would get into the water. They were only allowed in the water once the sun was completely up, and then they rotated about every hour, and they were in the water with me till about 7 o'clock at night when the sun started to set.
Wow. You are amazing, Annaleise, and we always seem to get close to time, but you are such an amazing person, and this book is it's amazing. I would encourage everyone to go out and get Annalise's book and read it, because it's such an empowering book that really does let you know that whatever you put your mind to, you really can do it, as long as you know what your power is and what your strength is, and you believe and trust in the cause that you are on the mission to achieve. And that's what you did, Annaleise. And in wrapping up everything, I know on page 133, you wrote about what you learned, and I love what you said, so I just want to read it and give you a few final words and final thoughts, and you can give us your website. But you said here, I have learned that I am capable of doing really hard things and of keeping going when everything in me is saying just quit. I have learned that it is possible to override the desire for comfort, to choose something more important, even if it hurts like the blazes. That is profound. That's profound, and I can see why they chose you to be a page. Now, what is a page?
A page is when you go and work at Queen's Park and you bring all the MPPs water and like different reports and stuff.
Amazing. I see why they chose you, because you are you are a light to the world, Annaleise, and what you have done to help these kids, I applaud you for it. I commend you for it, because you truly are a light to the world, and I can see why your story is so amazing and empowering, and you overcame so much, because you were talking about on the last show how you were in some type of speech, I think, class or something, but look at you now, and you were only, I think, 5 or 6 then, and now you are speaking as if nothing ever happened to you.
Yeah.
I one final question before we wrap it up here, because in this reading here, this is from your speech here, to the most successful athletes, winning or losing is not the important thing. As an athlete, what's important to you at this point in your life, and where do you see yourself moving forward?
Well, right now I think it's just like working as hard as you can and having fun. You don't always have to win, as long as you enjoy what you're doing and working as hard as you can.
Excellent answer.
Excellent answer. Excellent question. And amazing young lady you are. So give us some final thoughts.
Final thoughts, where we can find you, any website, any numbers, where the people Aim to Purpose universe can contact you or Camp Trillium.
Yeah, because they may want you to speak someplace.
Well, if you go on my website, you can find a lot of stuff on there if you want me to speak, or if you want to buy a book or donate to Camp Trillium. And that's just www.annalisecarr.com. And Camp Trillium's website is camptrillium.com.
And that's Annaleise Carr, last name with 2 R's.
Yes.
Great.
Annaleise, we want to thank you for being our guest on the show for 2 weeks in a row, as my mom is holding up your book, and it is called Annaleise Carr, How I Conquered Lake Ontario to Help Kids Battling Cancer.
Yes, you must get this book. I got mine on Amazon here in the USA, and if you go on Annalise's website, you can find out where to get her book, and it's a must read because it's such an inspirational book. She inspires us all. Just think at 14 what she did and how she did it. Such a challenge that many of us, that you have inspired so many of us to realize that you can do what you think is the impossible.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly.
And you absolutely did it. Well, one of the few people that have done it, and maybe one of the few people that will ever do it.
Yes, you never know, because you broke a record from 1954, and now you're the youngest person to ever swim across Lake Ontario, and you're on the wall, right? A wall there for that?
Yeah, there's a rock that everyone who swims Lake Ontario goes on, and like their name goes on it, and yeah, so I'm on that now too.
Wow.
Great, great, great. Well, thank you so much, Annaleise, for being with us for this 2-parter, and we've enjoyed this part just as much as we did the first part. And again, you have raised, maybe you're already over the 400, the $500,000 mark. We're not sure yet, but we know you've raised over $420,000 for Camp Trillium, and that is for a great cause, because I know the families and Camp Trillium staff, directors, and everybody really appreciate you, and so does the world. And thank you for coming on the show. And when you write your next book, or when maybe you make another milestone, and we'll have to have you back on the show. How about that?
All right.
Thank you
for having me.
Thank you so much.
And as we end the show always,
just remember, until next week, your power lies within you. So let it loose. And we'll see you all next week with a guest that we will be Skyping in again. And we're going international next week as well. Our guest is coming out of the UK, Brian Steele.